Theo been running that mouth up all week, knowing that this was coming. A joke. The jokes write themselves. I'm telling you. If y'all are new here, hit subscribe. Shout out to y'all. Y'all been rolling through with the views here recently. The last couple episodes have been doing really well. Do that. Y'all been doing this, and that's all that I need is that. Get in the comments, hype the video, share the video, subscribe. Yeah, part 1 of the final. We are almost done with the season. Episode 19. Crazy. And I don't know y'all that have been watching me for a while. Y'all should be proud of me. A full flagship season. I did it. But that's a testament to this season. This season's good. But yeah, let's get into it. All right, so we jump into the final. Everybody's headed to the final. We get everybody's thoughts. Everybody's sizing each other up in their confessionals. But they all get there to the final. They're standing out there waiting on TJ, and a helicopter comes to pick them up. And that's taking them to TJ, and it's cold. The whole final is cold, it's cold, it's cold. And whenever I watch finals and stuff, I always picture how I would do in a situation considering the climate. Anything cold is probably going to be 10 times harder for me. If it was warm, I would do better. But cold, freezing cold, I don't do well with that, especially when it comes to water. It needs to be warm. And if it's cold outside, but we'll get to it. But TJ, they get to him. TJ ends up welcoming them to their final challenge. We find out the placements and most importantly, the money. Who's getting the money? 4th place, you ain't getting shit. You ain't getting shit. 3rd place is $25,000, which that's essentially ain't shit when it's 2 people splitting $25K. Take out taxes, you basically ain't getting shit. $50K, it's a little bit better for 2nd place. 1st place is $425,000. That's what you want. You want that money. You can at least walk away with possibly 200 G's. But it is a 2-day final. It's through the Andes Mountains. I think that's what it was. But they have checkpoints throughout each one of these, or throughout the mountain, essentially. And they must complete each checkpoint. Once they complete, they'll get a key to unlock a chest at the end of the game, at the end of the challenge. And the team that gets all the keys unlock the chest the fastest wins the season. But as we all know, with them being paired up and being teams throughout the season, they keep that same thing going in the final. They'll be tethered together the entire time with their partner. Michaela, she's knowing at this point we got to be careful because of that ankle. So they begin. Checkpoint 1 is called River Run. They have to kayak down a river, and there will be stuff down the river that they have to remember, which is going to come back up later on. So they have a deer, a pyramid, a ring, runes, dolls, crimson, and a priest that's along the river that they have to remember. So the water's cold, apparently, which we can tell. Michaela, she's never rafted before. Cedric has. Olivia, she's from Alaska. She's done it before. So they start going on down. And they're trying to remember what they're seeing as they're going down the river. Cedric and Michaela took an early lead down the river, but as soon as they did, guess what happened? Tipped over. They flipped out of that kayak in that cold-ass water, underneath the water. Theo and Adrian, they end up being the first team to get out of the river to get to the first checkpoint. Olivia and Yeremi, they were next after them. Sydney and Turbo, and then Michaela and Cedric pulled up the rear. So they're at the puzzle now. And they have to then put the clues together. So the clues that they just saw on that river, they have to put them in order from how they saw them. Now, here's the thing, though. They have extra names for these particular clues that are out there that actually were not out there. They were out there to kind of throw them off. So Turbo obviously is struggling because, as we all know, English is not his first language. He can see what he's seeing down there with the clues, but you could see it, but then you might not know exactly what it is considering the fact that English is not his first language. So just the name itself might throw him, and it was throwing him. But Olivia and Yeremi, they ended up getting 2 incorrect. So they end up getting their check first, 2 incorrect. And with each amount that you get incorrect, so I guess 2, if you got 1 incorrect, you get a 2-minute delay, and then so on and so forth. So they got 2 incorrect. They got a 4-minute delay. Sydney and Turbo got 4 incorrect, 8-minute delay. Olivia and Yeremi ended up running off at this point. Their delay was over, so they're running. Michaela and Cedric got 2 wrong. They had a 4-minute delay. They were the second team to run off. Then it was Sydney and Turbo. Theo and Adrian, they got 3 wrong, 6-minute delay. They were the first team to the checkpoint and the last ones to leave. Wonder why. We about to get into it. So Sydney and Turbo, they running through right now. Turbo is now in pain. He's starting to feel it in his legs, but he's not stopping. But Michaela, She's running through, twist that ankle. I said, fuck. And she was like, it's swollen, it's painful, but she's still going too. But Sydney and Turbo, they come running past them at this point. Because remember, they were in third at this point. Michaela's sitting there talking about how the last final that she had ran, which was USA Season 2, her body tapped out. We all remember that. Michaela was kind of favored going in, if you want to keep it real. I feel like that final was a final. When you think about the women that were in that final, Michaela, Desi, Chanel, and Tori. On paper, Tori should have won because she's actually ran finals before. And I think at that point, I don't know if she won yet. But she should have been the favorite. Desi and Michaela are athletes for real, for real. As is Chanel. Chanel played basketball. But when you think of Michaela and Desi, considering what they did on Survivor, you already expect them to kill it. So for Michaela, her body to gas out in that final and shut down on her, like, that was unexpected. But she knows at this point, I'm going to have to force my shit to get it right. But Theo and Adrian, they now pass Michaela and Cedric. So Michaela and Cedric are in last at this point. Cedric is getting nervous. He like, I ain't trying to finish last with no money. I love Michaela, but at this point, we got to get it going. But Theo starts gassing out. This is the beginning of the true gas out. Was online. That's what's blowing me. He was online all week. If y'all don't follow him on Twitter, which I don't follow him on Twitter, but it still ended up on my feed because of what you like and what you see. You know how the algorithm is. But his tweets, he was talking about Michaela and Cedric being layups and yada, 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 knowing how you performed in this final. Sitting there trying to act like Michaela wouldn't wash Adrian and Olivia in an elimination. And Michaela is literally, her ankle is on life support, and she's performing better than you in this final, but we're going to get to it. But Michaela and Cedric, they end up passing them now because Theo's gassed out. It's not Adrian's fault. It's Theo's fault. But Turbo and Sydney, they're running at a smooth pace at this point. They right out there running. So they're the first to get to TJ at the second checkpoint, which is called Rune Memory. So what they have to do is match their runes to TJ's, and once they get all 10 correct, they can grab their key, run around the mountain one more time. That one little, not the mountain as a whole, but what they just ran around, they got to run around it again to get to the next checkpoint. Now, the thing with them being able to call for checks, they can ask TJ if they have them correct as they move a piece, which is what I would be doing. Like I would do it in order. Like if you start moving pieces on this end and this end, and then you get it correct, and then you start getting in the middle, you might not know what's correct and what's wrong. You might be changing something that might be correct. So some teams got it right. But Turbo, he starts moving him around, and Turbo's doing it by himself. He's telling Sydney, because Sydney's over there trying to help him, and he's like, no, don't touch. So she's asking him if he even knows the rules, and he's still like, he say shut up, but he basically is like, shut up, let me work. So Sydney's getting annoyed because she wants to get involved, but Michaela still running and twist her ankle again, and it looks like this time it was the right ankle. I said, Michaela, you about to be done. But Turbo eventually gets all 10 done by himself before anybody arrives. They finish before any other team got up there. They take off with the key. Yeremi and Sydney now get to the checkpoint. Yeremi is doing it. Michaela and Cedric then come running up, and they're feeling good now that they see that Olivia and Yeremi are still here. At this point, they know that they at least are in striking distance to at least be within the first place, second, and third place. I can't get my words together. But Olivia and Yeremi, though, they eventually get it done, though. They get theirs done. Olivia is stating pretty much, I'm trying to keep up with Yeremi and let him do the work, which is literally what happened. Olivia, if that result is true, it's not impressive. It's not impressive, but we'll get to it. But Sydney and Turbo, they're moving. His left leg is starting to cramp at this point. Michaela and Cedric, they're working now, and both of them are working on the runes together. They got 6 correct as Theo and Adrian finally show up. Olivia knows that she was carried by Horacio, and she stated it in her, she didn't state it, but she basically was like, everybody thinks that I got carried by Horacio. You know you did. And I remember stating it on here. He was the reason why she got through that final. He's the reason why she got to that final. Let's keep it real. Like their eliminations, he was carrying them in those eliminations that season. But she wants to show that it wasn't luck. I said, what you doing is not showing that you're pulling your weight. Like Yeremi is literally carrying her in this final. But Michaela and Cedric, Adrian and Theo, they're essentially at the same place right now. They all have 8 apiece correct. But Michaela and Cedric gets theirs done first. They get that key. They get to booking it. Theo and Adrian shortly after get theirs done, so they're going. So Sydney and Turbo are now at checkpoint 3, which is called cube alignment, which is pretty much Rubik's cubes that they have to align. They got about like 8 of them. You got to get them all aligned to where the colors are not repeating in the line. So Sydney is working this one. They get it all correct. They get their key and they're moving. Again, no team in sight. Turbo is still in pain. But Olivia and Yeremi, they get to the checkpoint. Michaela and Cedric get there as well at the same, well, not at the same time, but closely behind them while they're working at this point. But Olivia and Yeremi, they get theirs done. They are off as Theo and Adrian come up. And Theo is in there dragging. Like Olivia stated, it's like a zombie. Gassed. Yeah, he was running that mouth up. But Olivia, she's worried about Theo because she sees how gassed he is at this point. But he's down on the ground drinking his water as Adrian is working. Adrian's the workhorse. Adrian gained so much respect for me in this particular final. Like, I already knew she was carrying him during the season, but like, she is truly carrying him. But Olivia, like I said, she's worried about him. But we get to checkpoint 4, which is the Stairmaster, essentially. That's what it is. They have to compete against each other in the Stairmaster. So the first team to fall off in the head-to-head Stairmaster speed round will lose and will then have to wait for the next team to arrive to duel against them. So Sydney and Turbo now have to wait on the next team to come. And Turbo's like, man, why the fuck did I just kill myself trying to get up here thinking that we was going to be the first to finish? Yet we got to sit here and wait on another team. But Sydney, because Turbo is laying down on the ground now trying to like beat his legs to kind of get some feeling back into him. Sydney's telling him not to sit down, like stand up at this point because it's going to make you hurt even more. But she's telling him to stretch and whatnot. But Adrian and Theo, they timed out at the last checkpoint. They're the only team that has timed out of a checkpoint. And it's not because of Adrian, it's because of Theo. But they timed out. They now have to carry 2 Rubik's Cubes. And Adrian is now about to gas out at this point too because she's pulling away. But we find out too that Theo got asthma and smokes vapes. What sense does that make? Like, that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. But Olivia and Yeremi, they arrive to Sydney and Turbo. So it's time to duel now on them Stairmasters. So Sydney tells Turbo at this point, because they all get up there together, she tells Turbo to get down, which I think was smart. Because at that point, you already know he's injured and it's in his legs. Let him rest at this point. So she's trying to take on Olivia versus Yeremi herself. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to work. But then again, Olivia was gassing out too. And she ends up asking Yeremi, like, how are you feeling? And he's like, I don't know. And she's like, should I just get off at this point to save my legs? Which is smart. And she eventually does. But it's Yeremi versus Sydney at this point. Michaela and Cedric arrive now. They're laying down stretching because at this point they can't compete because it's still them going against each other. And it's smart to stretch. But Sydney eventually wins after like 8 minutes of them going back and forth. Sydney and Turbo are off. They get in the helicopter. Michaela is now getting her ankle aided together. Her pain is super high. She's getting emotional, you can tell, but she's not trying to show it. But she talks about how great of a season she's had, like in her confessionals. She's like, I've had such a great season. I've been in control of a lot of things. I've been winning a lot. I'm proud of how I've gotten here at this point. Like, Michaela has made moves. Like, Michaela's not scared to make moves. She's performed extremely well in daily challenges, 2 elimination wins. Michaela didn't just get here by skating. She actually made moves and actually did some shit. Same with Cedric. But Cedric goes up against Olivia, obviously, because Yeremi just literally basically killed himself up there against Sydney. And Olivia gets down to save her legs, which, I mean, I think it's smart to definitely do that at that point. If you know you're not going to beat him, just get down. But Cedric and Michaela, they're off there in second place now for the checkpoint. Yeremi's getting frustrated now because he's like, we losing at this point. Because like we started off well, but we losing our placement at this point. But Theo and Adrian, they get up there now to the checkpoint and he's thinking that he gonna rest. I said, get your ass up because you got to do something. She been doing it. But Olivia is seeing how gassed they are and she's excited at this point. Like we all just need to sit here and rest in. So Theo is now telling Adrian that he can't do this one. You have not done anything, Theo. You need to do something because she's the one doing everything. Like, let her fucking rest. But we then get to checkpoint number 5, which is Strobe Pond, which they have to swim to their assigned light, which is across a pond, retrieve the key, then swim back to complete the challenge. Sydney's doing it, but guess what? The water is cold as shit. I would die. I would die. I can swim, but in some cold ass water, what? But Turbo is talking about how, like, talking about all the beefs that he's had throughout the season in his confessional, and like him choosing Sydney was the perfect partner for him. But Sydney, she's in that pond. She's in that pond swimming. She gets it done, gets back, has hers. They're back at the stairs now. So everybody's going on the Stairmaster except for Theo. It's Olivia and Yeremi versus Adrian. But Olivia gets down first. Adrian eventually gets down. So Yeremi and Sydney are off, or Yeremi and Olivia are off to the final checkpoint for the episode. But Theo and Adrian, they're in last because of Theo flopping, like completely flopping. Cedric is now swimming for him and Michaela to that key. And he was like, that water is so cold, it took his breath away. I said, I could only imagine. But Michaela is sitting there telling Sydney and Turbo how she rolled her ankle 3 times already today and how she felt bad for Cedric. And she's like, at this point, I'm going to have to do him justice. But like, I told him we got to take our time at this point. Like, we don't know what might happen, which is true. Like, it is a race. But if you overdo it, or if you can be looking like Theo, gassing yourself out. Or you can end up hurting yourself for real. But Turbo is like, at this point, you're in second place. Like, you're doing something right at this point. But Sydney and Turbo, they start talking about Yeremi and Theo pretty much having to go against each other. But Cedric is now back on his way with the key. And the helicopter starts coming in. And it's Yeremi and Olivia. They don't know it's them, but they're expecting it to be them. Sydney and Turbo are not expecting it to be them, considering the fact that Yeremi has had to go multiple times now. And at this point, he didn't really have any race. But it is, in fact, Olivia and Yeremi, and they come walking up. Olivia sees them with coats, like, oh my God, it's cold. Like, y'all got coats? Can we get a coat? Sydney's like, yeah, once y'all get in that water and go get that key. So Olivia's like, so we got to swim to it? And Sydney's like, not both of y'all, but one of y'all can. Olivia's sitting there like, Yeremi, keep doing it. What are you doing, Olivia? Like, not impressed. But Yeremi is swimming on out now. Theo and Adrian, they finally pull up and they find out what they have to do. And Theo, like his girlfriend, looking at Adrian like, you gonna have to do it. I just said, nigga, Adrian, don't you dare say nigga. But I just said, you do it. You ain't done shit the whole time. Like, please. But Turbo was me. He's like, no, Adrian, don't do it. Like, don't do it, Adrian. But Theo was like, you didn't do it. Shut your mouth, talking to Turbo. And Turbo's like, well, my partner didn't let me do it. She didn't. Sydney's like, exactly. But Theo said, I could barely run, let alone swim, which whose fault is that? You've been talking all that shit. But Turbo is stating again to Adrian, don't do it. Theo's telling him to shut up. And Olivia's telling Adrian, kind of like trying to talk her into it. I'll get out there and do it. I'll warm you up. I'll put your coat on, whatever. Sydney's like, wow, y'all got all the rookies doing it. And I didn't realize it until this moment that all the rookies did do it. But Adrian, she's in her confessional talking about she fed up, she's freezing, she's hungry. I don't blame her. I'd be pissed too. And she like, Theo sitting here telling me that he's not doing it, but I ain't doing it either. I said, I know that's right. But she then states that I cannot do it. I'm cold. Like, I can't do it. You have to do it. And Olivia tells Theo, you got to get up. Like, come on. At this point, you got to do it. And he's still not trying to do it. And Olivia says, Theo, go get the fucking key. He tells her to shut up. I said, that's your man, Olivia. That's how he talks to you. But Turbo is laughing at his confessional, talking about Theo's a pussy chicken, which he is. He is. And she's like, he's like, you're not carrying the woman. Like, the woman's carrying you and you in your comfort zone, which is literally the truth, because his girlfriend, Olivia, has carried him through the season. Like, Olivia got all the blood on her hands the first half of the season. Theo didn't wake up until midway through the season. And even with that, a woman still was carrying him in that partnership. Olivia carried him to the midway. Adrian carried him in the majority of them eliminations and those dailies that they were in. And she's doing it here in the final. But Yeremi, he's back with his key, and Adrian's asking him how cold it is, and he's like, it will take your breath away. So she thugs it out, though. Adrian actually gets in there. She's about to get in there, but she's crying now. But Michaela clocked Theo. She's like, Theo thinks his ideal final is running around the track. As we all know, he ran track. But it just literally clocks the fact that Theo really is not a threat for real. Like, he just big. Like, that's just really all it is. Like, when it comes to, like, finals and whatnot, granted, he performed so much better in his first final. But Theo now, ever since he came back to the challenge, when it comes to actually competing outside of an elimination, he's not a threat, like, at all. But Adrian gets in there, she gets it done, she thugs it through, and they're now all gathering around the fire with their coats and whatnot. And TJ ends up showing up and telling them to come on over. And Michaela's like, I know it ain't good when he's here in the middle of a final. So TJ congratulates them all on making it this far, talking about the performances were great. I said, Theo ain't did shit. But he then states to them, though, before they start the overnight section of the final, does anybody want to stake a claim on anybody else's partner? I said, Adrian, now's your time. Now is your time. But mostly everybody is questioning it because at this point, like, there's a lot of stuff going on. Turbo is in pain. He's pushing through, but he's in pain. Who's to say in that second part of the final, it might not take him out. As we all know, Michaela's ankle is on life support. So at that point, Sydney and Cedric could end up trying to make a switch. But then again, Olivia ain't doing shit. Like, she's being carried. Adrian is looking like the best bet besides Sydney. What else? Adrian's the only one that needs to run, though. Like, let's keep it real. The other men, Turbo, even though Turbo's in pain, but Yeremi and Cedric are looking like the two best men to choose. For the women, Sydney is looking like the best one, but Adrian number 2. Michaela is still Michaela. She's still going to fight through it, but who knows how much more she got left. Olivia, even though she is not really doing anything right now, it might be smart because she ain't really doing shit, which she could be doing that strategically to really take it home in the end. But we're going to see next week. But if y'all got this far and haven't already, do it. Get in the comments. Let me know y'all's thoughts. Hype the video, share the video, subscribe if you're new. And I will see y'all next week for the final part of the final. Peace.